The 2025/2026 season was originally predicted to mark the beginning of a new era for Real Madrid. The arrival of Xabi Alonso as the new head coach was seen as the perfect step to start a new Madrid generation after the era of Carlo Ancelotti. On top of that, the long-awaited transfer of Kylian Mbappé was finally completed after years of being Florentino Perez's main target. With a squad filled with superstars like Vinicius Jr., Jude Bellingham, Federico Valverde, and Antonio Rudiger, many fans believed Madrid would once again dominate Europe. However, reality turned out to be very different. Behind the star-studded squad, Madrid's dressing room slowly transformed into a place filled with ego, pressure, and internal conflict. Poor results began creating tension between players, relationships with the coaching staff deteriorated, and dressing room problems started leaking to the Spanish media. The situation became even heated after Madrid lost to Barcelona in the 2026 Spanish Super Cup final. That defeat became the final turning point that caused Xabi Alonso's position to collapse. But after Alonso's departure, Madrid's problems did not disappear. In fact, that was when the real chaos truly began and slowly evolved into one of the biggest dramas in the club's history. Xabi Alonso loses the support of the players. When Xabi Alonso first arrived in Madrid, he tried to bring a new atmosphere into the club. He tightened dressing room discipline, limited the influence of player agents, and attempted to change a team culture that many considered too comfortable. Alonso also wanted Madrid to play with a more modern and intense system. However, not all players accepted that approach positively. Several senior players reportedly felt Alonso was too strict and experimented too often with tactics, making it difficult for players to adapt. The situation worsened as Madrid's performances became increasingly unstable. Valverde was repeatedly played as a right back and was reportedly frustrated with the decision. The chemistry between Mbappé and Vinicius Jr. also never truly clicked. According to Spanish media reports, several players began openly questioning Alonso's decisions inside the dressing room. When Madrid lost to Barcelona in the Spanish Super Cup final, pressure on Alonso exploded immediately. Just hours after the match, Madrid officially decided to part ways with the coach. Many media outlets described that defeat as the final blow that cost Alonso his job after gradually losing control of the dressing room. Arbeloa arrives, but the dressing room becomes even more divided. After Alonso was dismissed, Madrid appointed Arbeloa as interim manager. The club's management hoped the former Madrid player could restore discipline and revive the team's spirit. Instead, the situation became even more complicated. Arbeloa was considered inexperienced for handling a dressing room filled with superstars and massive egos. Many players reportedly were not fully convinced by his abilities from day one. Conflicts began appearing one after another. Dani Ceballos was reportedly furious over his lack of playing time and allegedly became involved in a heated verbal argument with Arbeloa at Valdebebas. Dani Carvajal was also said to be disappointed after his role started being challenged by Trent Alexander-Arnold. Meanwhile, Raúl Asensio and Álvaro Carreras were repeatedly reported to have cold relations with the coach. Spanish media even claimed that several players had begun to lose respect for Arbeloa because they believed he lacked full control over the team. Madrid's dressing room eventually split into several smaller groups that kept their distance from one another. What initially started as minor tension slowly developed into open conflict. Mbappé became the main target of fan anger. Amid the increasingly chaotic situation, Mbappé's name became the center of attention. Statistically, his performances remained impressive, and he was still Madrid's main goal-scoring machine. However, many fans believed his arrival had damaged the team's balance. Mbappé and Vinicius were considered too similar in playing style, preventing their partnership from ever feeling truly natural on the pitch. In addition, some players reportedly felt Mbappé received overly special treatment from the club. The biggest controversy emerged when Mbappé traveled to Sardinia, Italy, with actress Esther Exposito, while Madrid were in the middle of a crisis. At that time, Madrid had just suffered poor results, and the dressing room was already filled with tension. Photos of Mbappé in Italy quickly went viral and sparked outrage among fans. Many believed the player showed no sense of urgency during the club's difficult situation. An online petition titled "Mbappé Out" even appeared, demanding Madrid sell the player at the end of the season. Several European media outlets reported that the petition gathered millions of signatures within a short period. Mbappé ultimately transformed from Madrid's symbol of hope into the main target of fan frustration this season. Pressure on him grew larger every time Madrid dropped more points. Conflicts between players began to explode. The worse Madrid's performances became, the more heated the atmosphere at the Valdebebas training center grew. One of the names most frequently linked to internal conflicts was Antonio Rudiger. The German defender was reportedly losing emotional control during training sessions because of frustration with the team's condition. Several reports claimed Rudiger regularly became involved in heated arguments with teammates after poor internal training matches. One of the biggest incidents involved Álvaro Carreras. Spanish and English media reported that the two players were involved in a serious confrontation during training, with rumors even mentioning physical contact, although Madrid denied those claims. The incident further damaged the dressing room atmosphere. Players began blaming each other after defeats, communication deteriorated, and trust slowly disappeared. Many Spanish football analysts started describing Madrid's situation as a collective mental collapse. On paper, they possessed an extraordinary squad, but inside the dressing room, everyone was heading in different directions. Once player egos become bigger than the team itself, performances inevitably collapse as well. Valverde versus Tchouaméni became the symbol of Madrid's collapse this season. The biggest conflict eventually erupted between Valverde and Tchouaméni. According to reports from Reuters and The Guardian, the issue began with a hard tackle in training ahead of El Clasico. What initially looked like a normal argument continued escalating inside the dressing room the following day. Tension had already existed for several weeks due to player frustration over the team's situation. During the altercation, Valverde reportedly fell and struck his head against a table, suffering a serious injury that required stitches. The incident immediately became major news across Europe because it exposed how badly damaged Madrid's internal condition had become. Many fans now believe Madrid's problems are no longer about tactics or player quality, but rather a dressing room that has completely lost control. Florentino Perez was even rumored to be considering a massive revolution during the upcoming summer transfer window. Several senior players were also reportedly considering leaving the club if the situation failed to improve quickly. The clash between Valverde and Tchouaméni ultimately became the clearest symbol of Madrid's internal collapse this season and showed that the club's crisis had reached its most dangerous point. The 2025-2026 season has now turned into one of the most chaotic campaigns in Real Madrid's history. Xabi Alonso's dismissal failed to solve the problems because the root issues were far bigger than tactics alone. Superstar egos, player conflicts, lost trust in the coach, and relentless media pressure slowly destroyed Madrid's dressing room from within. A team once filled with enormous expectations instead became the center of European football drama. Now all eyes are on Florentino Perez and the major decisions Madrid will make next season. Will they continue with this latest Galacticos project or launch a massive revolution to save the club's future? What is clear is that this season proved even a club as gigantic as Real Madrid can collapse when internal conflict is allowed to grow unchecked. If Madrid fail to repair their dressing room atmosphere, this crisis could become the beginning of even bigger problems in the future. So, in your opinion, who is most responsible for Real Madrid's chaos this season? Xabi Alonso, Arbeloa, Florentino Perez, or the superstar players themselves? And if you were part of Madrid's management, which player would you sell first to save the dressing room? Write your opinions in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more exciting and in-depth football discussions.